I mean, I don't like the way he's saying that with a smile on his face. I mean, what's so funny?
How many times did you cheat on me?
I don't know.
Maybe you had to say.
I wasn't counting.
Wow. No, that hurts. If you're not able to commit, yo, if you're not ready to commit, stay away.
Tell him I got the juice.
What did you do?
I did everything.
Like what?
I had sex with other girls. I did everything.
I mean, I don't like the way he's saying that with a smile on his face. I mean, what's so funny? What I did everything. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? No, let me not get ahead of myself. I'm sorry. This is some sad stuff right here. The music, this
We
is
met in school. We met in college. We met in class, and you really didn't like me.
No, I didn't like you ever.
A couple years later, we moved into like the same apartment complex, and the first day we both moved there, we like met on the elevator again. It was like a reunion,
And then you offered to bring my groceries upstairs.
and
what a
yeah,
smooth
we spent a lot
move.
of time together.
Like every day.
I would say that you were my best friend.
Look at how that relationship turned out. What happened?
Yeah. Me too.
This is ultimately what hurts the most. Like, just developing a genuine relationship and friendship, best friendship with someone that was your person, like through and through in so many ways. And so even though you had to separate from a relationship because there was more harm being done than good, it doesn't negate the emotions that are experienced upon that separation because of the person you're departing from and the experiences, the connection, the memories that were made and had in that space. Losing someone that you could confide into, that you could lean on, that you can just simply laugh with, cry with, do life with in any and all capacities, and for that to no longer be there, that is what I've learned from listening to clients and other people like that. That is really where a lot of that struggle lies.
I would go through his phone and I would like see text messages or like pictures of girls. And then I would ask him about it. And sometimes he would lie and just say like, oh, that's not true. You don't know what you're talking about. And he said like, oh, I'll stop. But then he didn't. One time I went to his room and he had someone else in his room and he told me to leave. And I went back to my room and I just cried the whole night.
Dang. That's tough. Sheesh.
A little while ago talking to you. And then he said something like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it again.
There was kind of a point where things weren't the same.
What do you mean?
Just like you would always go through my phone or my computer.
Yeah, I didn't trust you.
If you would go to that measure to find whatever, why wouldn't you just leave?
I don't know. I think I was like stupid.
Or maybe she felt she had to go through all of those measurements because there was a necessity for that trust to be rebuilt. And a part of that trust being rebuilt and going through that process looked like her having to go to that measurement in extreme. And so maybe through genuine desire to repair the relationship after the first time or the second time or the third time or however many times it took place, maybe, just maybe, with willful cooperation and your desire to remain in the relationship, it could have worked. And it would have taken some time, and you would have had to put yourself in a position to prove yourself time and time again that you are not that same person. You've grown, you're making different decisions. I think that's something to consider, that when trust is broken to such an extent, if the relationship is genuinely desired to be reconciled, you have to be willing to come to the conclusion that I'm going to do whatever it takes, barring any kind of abusive motionings or manipulation, of course. Like, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make this right. And sometimes to that extreme, it looks like them going through your phone, potentially asking questions that you would assume, man, I thought we were past this. I thought we were done with this by now. But nah, fam. Like, this, it takes some time here. And so what lengths are you willing to go to reconcile this relationship? Because at that point, it's not even just on her. Maybe you were the one that could have been like, you know what, let's not continue this. I think that's a possibility.
How many times did you cheat on me?
I don't know.
Maybe you had to say.
I wasn't counting.
Wow. No, that hurts. I'm gonna say something y'all ain't gonna like. There's a story behind him too as to why that was something that he went to do. It's a lot of times we look at videos like this and it's easy to villainize the perpetrator, and I think there's a story, man, not that excuses the behavior but explains the behavior. And I think it's kind of wrapping up to what we'll conclude within our entire video, just kind of the programmings and tendencies, certain desires that weren't checked, like so much that explains why, even though he seemingly had a good thing, he felt the need or the insatiable desire to go after whatever was in front of him that wasn't her. Yes, consequences happen. The relationship still ends. It's not beneficial. Don't need to be together. And there's just something about where he comes from in the story of life that he lives that potentially gives room to explain why that was something that he was like, yo, let's dive into it. Let's make it do what it do.
It had more to do with me just not being able to commit. Because I didn't, at the time, I didn't want to. I think just sometimes we're not on the same page.
I think that's true.
There's nothing that you could have done differently that I think would have prevented it. I think that you did everything that you needed to do to be a good girlfriend, and I was lucky to have someone like you.
I don't think you're a bad guy because he cheated. I forgave you.
Why?
Because you're my best friend.
Oh man, that forgiveness run deep. If you're not able to commit, if you're not ready to commit, stay away. Like, real talk, bro. Like, there's no need for you to damage anybody else because of your uncertainty of whether or not you're looking to commit. I think the purpose of dating should always be to marry. And that is somebody that you are considering as a valid candidate for marriage. That requires your willfulness to commit. Commit to honoring yourself, commit to honoring her, commit to honoring the relationship. If you're not in that position, don't date. Don't put yourself in a position to pursue after somebody. It doesn't make sense.
It's hard.
I think we're like in the first stage of moving on.
Yeah.
I think we both kind of accepted for the first time that it's really over.
I couldn't, today I couldn't see, my life without you. But,
Wow.
I don't know. I feel like you hurt me a lot, so. I feel like you abandoned me.
I apologize for hurting you, and I hope in the future we can remain good friends, and I get a chance to see you grow into the woman that you're becoming.
Man, a few things to recognize from watching that video. One, even though forgiveness has been extended and apologies have been made in this video, this is not demanding reconciliation. Forgiveness is necessary to be able to live forward and allow yourself to release that person from that burden and be able to just move on beyond the offense. And anytime you've been offended to such an egregious space, the boundaries are needed, necessary, and the reconciliation is not mandatory. So that's number one. Number two, I think the biggest thing that I really wanted to get to us while watching this was we have to be willing in our singleness, men, to deal with all of the tendencies, the programmings. We have to deal with the insatiable desires and appetites that can harm the relationship that we ultimately want. Singleness can't be the stage where we just let ourselves let loose and just have all the fun in the world and be able to put ourselves in positions of manipulating women and sleeping around and being in everybody's bed. Like, we just can't afford that. And this is one of those reasons why, upon plethora, you are programming your body in multitude of ways to operate in the same fashion in your marriage and later relationships as you are currently in your singleness. And so it's important that we deal with that. So what are your appetites? What are your desires? The lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, pride of life. What are those things that you are being able to examine over your life and say, man, this could potentially get in the way of a marriage, of a relationship, of having a healthy connection with somebody? And if you can look at that and then be willing to put actionable, applicable things into your life to master your habits and to be willing to grow and mature in that space, your marriage, your future relationships will always be grateful for that, whether it's seen and acknowledged or not, because you are saving yourself and that person from so much extra baggage and heartache, because there's so much in front of you now that you're willing to put your hands to, not just in the sense of faithfulness, growing in skills, all those kinds of things, but you're willing to address the struggles and willing to put up a fight now. So people you encounter with, the family you breed later down the line, it's not something that's affected. Like, that's not a weight that you shift over to them. And it's not a problem that then becomes their problem because you were not willing to address it head on. You were not willing to address the P-hub. You were not willing to address the appetites and lustful desires. You were not willing to address a lot of the traumas and a lot of the emotional wounds and a lot of your childhood history. Like, you were willing to do the work necessary so that way you could have a healthier lens on life, a healthier lens on relationships, and thereby create healthier lives around you. What are you doing in your singleness? Because I think a lot of what he showed in this relationship is clear that this is some practices that were in his singleness. And this isn't to bash him, because we all have done things that we aren't proud of and have compromised in so many different ways. I know I have a history in my singleness where I wasn't willing to commit and lacked the ability to commit. And I moved from a place of fear of missing out and was trying to do all my catching up in that same sphere of playing around, being manipulative. Like, that is a real thing. And I'm so glad as I look back over those things that I did not engage into a relationship, because it wouldn't have been beneficial. My encouragement to you as you are in your singleness is really being able to look at things like this, and instead of villainizing and making the person or perpetrator the monster of the story, or maybe you can reflect on moments where you have been mishandled by others and they are easily becoming the monster and villain of the story. Ask yourself, where have I fallen short? Where have I not mastered my disciplines and habits, and they have shown up in areas that have been unfavorable and have ruined potential relationships and connections with people? Your singleness and how to maximize it really starts by you being willing to address those hard things, and really, with the help of God and being in relationship to Christ and having a prayer life, having a worship life, being in community and connecting to people who are going to be able to cultivate that kind of life with you is extremely important. And without it, this could be your future in a relationship. And because certain appetites weren't controlled and dealt with, lust wasn't checked, P-hub and all that, like, that just wasn't dealt with. And this is how it shows up. And there's great damage that you're causing to so many people around you. The last thing I'll say on this entire video too is I do believe that infidelity starts in the heart. And in any case and scenario where a cheating has occurred, no matter how many times it happens, that is the surfaced response that initially starts in the heart. Now, whether it's an emotional connection to somebody, they just maybe have thought to themselves, like, this individual, hey, I'm just not able to commit. They almost kind of speak that identity over their lives. It starts in the heart. So take a look at Matthew 5:27 for some biblical context. You have heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery, but I say anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. Okay, so the last verses 29 and 30, that's really an exaggeration. It's a hyperbole. It's not something to be taken literal. Jesus just gives an emphasis that it's important to deal with that and rid of that issue, rid of whatever is causing that issue. It's important to rid of it than to keep it, at least to how far I've understood it at this point. And so, but in regards to Matthew 5:27, this is so important because in this context and in biblical context in this time, like, they would just go around divorcing people. And not only would they just go around divorcing people, but they limited adultery to just the outward act, right? Somebody going in and to another, a man sleeping with another man's wife. Like, that was just potentially the only thing that was considered adultery. And Jesus is like, nah, man, that's heart level stuff. That's heart level issues that we got to be willing to deal with. And it starts with really connecting to Christ in a lot of ways. It really starts there, and getting an understanding behind the programmings that have influenced such an appetite and such a desire to go after those things. And so When you think of the emotional connections, like it before the initial infidelity even occurred, there was a disconnect somewhere emotionally. And because things weren't addressed, and because things weren't communicated, and because emotions weren't shared and vulnerability was not expressed, it went a whole lot deeper than it should have. This same lust, lusting in the heart, looking on a woman and you've committed adultery in your heart. Wow. Like that goes a lot deeper. We think of the access to P-Hub. We think of all these different views and thoughts that go through our minds if we were to catch somebody walking down the street and imagining laying in bed with them. Like that's adultery. Like that is what Jesus is dealing with. And so always keep in mind that a lot of these things, even though it was surfaced and it surfaced up in the way it did, it first started in the heart. And in order to address the inward issue of infidelity, it requires us to be humble and come before Christ, moving in repentance and honestly working through those programmings that have given us in some way, shape, or form permission to think that moving in such a way is okay. In some way, shape, or form, again, cutting off the social media, unfollowing people, like getting rid of photos, all that kind of stuff, access. So yes, absolutely. All that is part of it. And I've got to also be willing to undergo a heart change. And the heart change is what actually allows me to gain understanding of how to see people the way God sees them, value people the way God values them, and be willing to honor them. It doesn't mean that the temptations won't come, but I'll have a better opportunity and understanding behind the temptation, getting a logical understanding on what's on the other end of engaging in that temptation, which is concerning greater loss than it ever is any gain. And now because of that understanding and because of this genuine heart change, willing to do things the way God sees it, I can now look at those things and not even struggle with it at one point. You know, over time, I don't even struggle there. I'm just like, yo, that don't even make sense to abandon everything I got for a few moments of fame. Like, nah, it's not even it. And that's because we gain understanding. That's because we allowed ourselves to undergo a heart change, being connected to the one who can genuinely do something about the issue that's at the root. So listen, I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into this video. If you like this kind of content, want to see more reactions like this, subscribe, like this video, share with a friend who could benefit from seeing maybe a fresh perspective from a old trended video like this here. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next conversation. Until then, be easy and be breezy, my friend. Peace.